I talk a lot about weeds in a lot of other recordings, and I will continue to talk about weeds. I'm fascinated with them, and I think they're really, really important to understand. They're plants that we don't plant. They show up, and they tend to give us a lot more information about our bodies and about our environments than we give them credit for because we are have been taught that they're enemies. They are something that we're supposed to fight against, or that I think even biblically we have extracted certain ideas that somehow a weed is evil or evidence of evil, and so we're given license to rip it out and fight with it. So we see a lot of supported within the Christian model, the idea of pouring chemicals on the ground um, and these monocultures that we create for what we want to grow for food or for pleasure. So today I want to talk about one aspect of weeds that I actually see brought up a lot in the herbal world that I have been immersed in for a long, long time. And in this conversation, I'm sort of contrasting the herbal world, and some people will say the woo woo side of things, but an herbal view that does not take into account a Christian worldview often talks about weeds showing up when we need them. So growing near us in abundance because they know that we need them. And it imbues a certain level of intelligence in the plant world that sort of goes down the route of plant divas and fairies and things that get talked about on that side of worldview. And the trouble is that from a Christian standpoint, that becomes something that many Christians will just toss out wholesale. It's not something to consider because it is attached to a different way of viewing the world. Because, of course, the Christian view looks at plants and animals and everything that's around us as created by God. So, of course, they're not, weeds aren't growing where we need them because they're controlled by a plant diva or there's some sort of local god or spirit that is in that plant that is co-creative. The problem is that there is truth here to dig into in what would be shared from folk knowledge or from pagan knowledge of or belief of how plants are interacting with us. So I want to break that apart. So first of all, weeds do grow. I will say this from a Christian worldview, and then I'm going to unpack it. Weeds do grow where they are going to provide us the most benefit. They do grow in conjunction with where we are living, as a sign that they have in them something that would benefit us. So here's there is more going on in that statement than just the chemicals in the plants. I do believe that there is intelligence given to the plant world. So that's the first earth-shattering. If you want to look at from what my position is and what my belief is, I do believe that plants have a level of intelligence that we don't understand. I do believe it is absolutely within our creator's abilities to give plants abilities from that standpoint, still separated from humans. I don't think that they think and talk to like in words. That's obviously a different that's a different treatment that we need to think about if our plants are speaking to us in words. Um, I feel like I'm running off into the weeds, ha ha ha, and I don't want to lose you. So suffice to say that it's important that you understand about me that I do believe that plants have intelligence. But from a very practical standpoint, plants that grow or weeds that are arising in the same soil where we are are plants that are needed by our bodies. So weeds have a purpose. I have talked about that before. If you're new here, I'm going to explain that a little bit. Weeds have a purpose in that they are specialists at fixing a certain aspect of deficiency, or sometimes even something that is um, overabundant and out of balance in the soil. They are specialists at fixing that. So, as an example, shepherd's purse is a weed that grows where there is too much salt in the soil, nitrate. So often you'll see them at the edge of a farm field where there is nitrate runoff. And their purpose in growing is to rebalance the soil. They are specialists at pulling that up out of the soil and fixing, if you will, that balance that needs to be addressed. So when we drive along, my husband and I have traveled a lot as I go around the country and speak. And because we don't take planes, we're always driving. And I would go through a community, and based on the weeds that I saw in abundance, I could tell you what types of common human disease and ailments and imbalances were happening in that area by the weeds that were growing, because the weeds grow where they have soil, there are soil issues going on. And this is the same soil. If you are eating local, if you are getting water, if you're getting groundwater coming from, they've percolated through the same soils, you will have the same imbalances that are in the soil in your body. So the weeds that are there to address imbalances in the soil in your local area are going to address imbalances in your body. So throughout Ohio, I see a lot, we have a lot of compacted heavy soils and wet, boggy places. And I see a lot of teasel growing, and teasel root is really good for breaking up uh, congestion in the kidneys. And so here we look at the soil, we look at what's happening with water that's sitting and needing to percolate through the soil and be filtered, and teasel does that. And teasel will do that for the human body. So the weeds really can give us an idea of what's happening in the soil, but they can also give us an indication as to what is deficient and going on in our bodies. And this is another really strong reason as to why we are meant to be tied more intimately with our soils. We are meant to eat from the local area where we're living. We are meant to drink the waters that are there, because as the weeds are specialists there in fixing the soil, when we use those in our bodies, we're contributing to a healthier environment all the way around. The weeds are growing where in abundance, directly where you need them if you are tied to your land. And conversely, this is a really big problem as to why the more we are disconnected from our land, and we are connected to a lab where our food comes from and our water comes in bottles, we become disconnected from the space that we are actually living in, and the plants that are available there are no longer really applicable to us. um, it may be a new way of you thinking about this, and so I will leave you with that to ponder. But the weeds are not just there in our environment because we have something evil going on, or there's uh, a reason we need to go out and fight evil or fight the devil who has planted evil weed seeds. I want to talk again in another one of these episodes about why those weed seeds are coming about, where they come from, and why they're popping up. But it is really, really important for us to understand that, yes, weeds do grow where we most need them. We don't need to attribute them to a plant spirit. It is there is science there that is we can understand from a science level of why those plants are growing near us. And in applying them to our bodies, we likely will be able to address imbalances that are causing disease in our body very simply. We can eat our way out of problems by addressing the soil health for our vegetables and ensuring that our groundwater is safe and clean. But we can also address remedies by using the weeds that are popping up around our tomatoes and that we see, like behind me, we have a fallow area, and you can see what's growing. These are the things that I'm most going to focus on putting into teas and bringing into the house into soups and salads and casseroles, because these plants contain the nutrition that is missing in uh, in our bodies. So thanks for joining me. I hope that God is blessing you today, and I'll see you on another day.